We got a great show for you tonight, ladies and gentlemen. You're going to be most pleased with this one. Our guest tonight, economist Oren Cass, is going to be here later to discuss tariffs. You're going to have a conservative economist bucking laissez-faire. Just f***ing watch it. But first, we're going to check in with our good friend, democracy. Going to give him the old turn your head and cough. How's democracy doing?
In some of his strongest comments yet, President Trump says he's considering his options to serve a third term in office, a breach of the Constitution's two-term limit for presidents.
I'm sorry, considering the option? What, are you trying to order off menu from the Constitution? Oh, yeah, I see you got, what do you got, 2 terms here. But can I get it animal style? What are you going to do, a third term? How does that work exactly?
In a phone call with NBC, Trump saying, quote, there are methods which you could do it, including possibly urging his vice president, J.D. Vance, to run and then cede power back to Trump. The president saying that's one method, but that there are others, too.
Yes. There are other methods. You tried one a few years ago. There are other methods for staying in power beyond when you are legally allowed to be there. Historically, some of them involve catapults. Although maybe Trump has something more creative in mind with the Vance thing. Have you guys heard of the movie Face Off? Yeah, so here's how it's gonna work. Trump will watch that movie as the military seizes power. Like, what the f***? I'm sure at which point Chuck Schumer will say, I will allow it because in the third term, we think his popularity will go down to the 30s. So aside from the president saying, I'm not leaving, is there any other image of the shambolic state of our democracy, perhaps something that looks like what you might get if you fed the destruction of democracy into an AI meme generator? Oh, right, Elon Musk. Okay. The richest and most fertile man in the world went to Wisconsin, where he came out in a cheese hat before giving million-dollar checks to voters in an effort to influence the Supreme Court race in Wisconsin. Hey, you know what that's about? You know what that's about, Elon? Their culture is not your costume, Musk. Their people... do not appropriate their dairy chapeaus. You can really get a sense of the fraying of our democracy by tracing the arc of its symbolic headwear. It's still a tricorner, but it's not the same. Meanwhile, the process of streamlining our beautiful democracy continues apace. And a couple of months into Trump's second of his, let's say, 4 to 7 terms, he continues to live up to his vaunted apprentice catchphrase, "You're fired."
More than 1,300 workers now fired at the Department of Education.
The IRS beginning to lay off more than 6,000 employees.
The Social Security Administration will cut 7,000 jobs.
The U.S. Postal Service will trim its workforce by 10,000.
HHS will be dropping around 20,000 workers.
The Department of Veterans Affairs looking to cut 80,000 jobs.
In the administration's defense, those veterans shouldn't have been having affairs in the first place. That's on them. And by the way, do we need a department for that? The layoffs have been harsh, unpredictable, and needless to say, the mainstream media has been outraged.
So what's the end game here? Killing American jobs?
They're risking hurting those hardworking Americans. That bothers me.
You're playing with real people's money, real people's jobs, and real people's lives.
Rooting for Americans to lose jobs.
I'm sorry, that's empathy for Tesla workers. Apparently at Fox, those are the only hardworking Americans whose jobs matter. But the question is, with hundreds of thousands of civil servants being often haphazardly fired, is there any corner, no matter how small, of our current government that is safe from Musk's chainsaw of efficiency?
President Trump telling NBC News he has no plans to fire anyone following that controversial Signal group chat.
Yes! Veterans Affairs, Department of Education, USAID, you, you. Because all is right at the Department of Accidentally Texting War Stuff to Reporters. But fear not, regular civil service government parasites. Perhaps this incident offers an opportunity for you all to get the kind of job security that clearly doesn't come from the quality of your work, but the assiness of your kisses. So, for instance, this Friday, when you, as a civil servant, have to send in your mandatory email to DOGE listing the 5 things you did that week, you can keep your job by following the same strategies that these careless Snapchatters employed to keep their jobs. Number 1, don't write down, what did I do this week? You know, I took my federal car and went to Hooters and cried there for 7 hours. No. You want to save your job, point the same finger of blame that they did for their indiscretions.
It's important to remember why this powerful action took place in the first place. Because of Joe Biden's incompetence.
The complete opposite approach from the fecklessness of the Biden administration.
In contrast to Joe Biden.
Did something that the Biden administration did not do.
Did the job that Joe Biden wouldn't do.
We take out people that the Biden team never could.
You get it? What did you do this week at work? Number 1. I repaired the damage done by f***ing Joe Biden. How could I be f***ing up now at my job, considering how bad Joe Biden f***ed up before? It's not possible. You need to be in your job to repair his damage. You were at the Hooters because Joe Biden wouldn't. Or couldn't rage eat that many wings. All right. Now, you might be thinking, these DOGE guys are slicker than that. They're not just going to fall for blame Biden. That's why we hired you. You're sharp. It's not your only move.
If you want to talk about classified information, talk about what was at Hillary Clinton's home that she was trying to bleach bit.
Hillary Clinton's bit bleaching. Who amongst us hasn't tried to bleach our own bits? I think... Obviously, I'm referring to anuses. So, what are we talking about? Biden doesn't work? Throw a slash. All right. Number 1, that's where you fill in. Blame Biden gets you 80% home. Hillary drives you the rest of the way in the trunk of her car shouting Benghazi. All right. Now, I know that's a bit of a big swing for your number 1 thing, because here's the problem. Neither Joe Biden nor Hillary probably work in your office, which is why, for the number 2 thing you're going to write to the DOGE folks, you're going to bring that finger-pointing technique a little closer to home. The Yemen text group chat understood rule number 1 of self-preservation. Me? No, it was that guy. Because remember, you don't have to be faster than the bear. You just have to be faster than your slowest coworker. So, CIA Director Ratcliffe, who are you faster than?
I've understood from media reports the Secretary of Defense has said the information was not classified.
Boom. By the way, nothing like the director of the CIA going, I read in the paper the Secretary of Defense was the guy to blame. I don't get reports. I just read the New York Times. I have no idea. He's blaming the Secretary of Defense. Secretary of Defense Pete Hegseth, what do you say?
I'm wondering if you feel, as the leader of the Defense Department, you have any level of responsibility.
Thank you for the question. I'm responsible for ensuring that our department is prepared and ready to deter and defeat our enemies.
My biggest weakness? I'm glad you asked. I think it's that I rule too hard. I may be too awesome. Director of National Intelligence Tulsi Gabbard, maybe you should have known if this was classified or who was on the text chain.
I defer to the Secretary of Defense, the National Security Council.
Oh! The National Security Council has entered the chat. That's you, Mike Waltz. Do we have ourselves a blame census? J.D. Vance.
Members of the administration, including my dear friend Mike, have taken responsibility for it.
That is the coldest, my dear friend Mike, I have ever heard. Anyway, Brutus, you were saying about your dear friend Caesar? Now, President Trump, do you want to join the pylon?
Mike Waltz, I guess he said he claimed responsibility, I would imagine. Had nothing to do with anyone else. It was Mike, I guess. I don't know. I was told it was Mike.
Why are you asking me? I'm just an innocent passerby. I didn't see the accident, officer, but I got to tell you, it looks like classic Mike to me. Well, there you have it. Looks like the bottle stopped spitting on Mike Waltz. Time for you to take responsibility and French kiss that DOGE chainsaw. Unless you've obviously got a more plausible explanation for how a journalist ended up on your incredibly sensitive text chain.
You know, Laura, I'm not a conspiracy theorist.
Normally, that's a disqualifying position for this administration. But go on.
But of all the people out there, somehow this guy who has lied about the president, and he's the one that somehow gets on somebody's contact and then gets sucked into this group.
It's not somebody's contact. It was your contact. And he wasn't sucked in by unseen gravitational forces. You added him to the f***ing chat. Which brings us to number two. Number two on your DOGE list. What did you do this week? I did a ton of stuff. All of it was right until I was tricked by the lamestream media. Can I tell you something? It's very hard to write backwards. All right, that might save your job if you're a low-level staffer. But what if you're the department head? And DOGE wants to know the 5 things that you did. How are you going to keep your job when it's your name on the bombs? Well, it's step 3. Confidently and definitively admit nothing. Thank you all for coming.
I've heard I was characterized. Nobody was texting war plans, and that's all I have to say about that. Nobody's texting war plans. I know exactly what I'm doing, exactly what we're directing, and that's all I have to say about that. I noticed this morning out came something that doesn't look like war plans. And as a matter of fact, they even changed the title to attack plans because they know it's not war plans.
You get it? We didn't endanger troops in a war plan. We endangered them in an attack plan. Who's the asshole now? You know, he must be so upset that every time he lands, everywhere he goes, the reporters keep finding him at every stop. He's probably like, shit. Did I mistakenly add you guys to my travel group chat? Number 3. What did I do? I would tell you, but you're probably too stupid to understand, but it was awesome. I'm awesome. That's number 3. So now, 1, 2, 3. What do we got? 2 more to go, right? 4 and 5? 60% of your work week is done. We're past hump day and cruising to TGIF, and that sweet government cheese continues to roll in. Maybe by day 4, it's time you stop justifying your actions to DOGE and start celebrating your actions.
At the end of the day, what is most important is that the mission was a remarkable success.
What we should be talking about is it was a very successful mission.
The real story here is the overwhelming success of President Trump's decisive military action against Houthi terrorists.
The last place I would want to be right now is a Houthi in Yemen.
Not to be that grammar guy. But a Houthi is not a place. You can't. But the point is, for number 4 on the list, If they're not buying 1 through 3, what did you do this week at the Department of Agriculture? I bombed the shit out of the Houthis. Now, obviously, these strategies may lead to some of your superiors saying things like, so just bombing the Houthis stops the whole problem? Because I think we've been bombing Yemen for decades. Do we have a follow-up plan to that? And will journalists be on that follow-up chain, too? At which point, we turn to number 5. It's a Hail Mary. And President Trump has spoken about how important it is for this administration to own their mistakes.
We're bringing honor and integrity and accountability back throughout our government. We're going to bring transparency and accountability back to our government. You know the old statement, the buck stops here, right? Famous statement. Well, I can say the same thing, the buck stops here.
Boom, that old Harry Truman chestnut. This is President Trump, living those accountability values. Here he is when he was first asked about the Signal chat incident.
I know nothing about it. You're saying that they had what?
I'm sorry, there's a buck now what? So I was just with you, accountability, and you people bought it. No, my friends. Number 5 is... What? That's the get out of jail free card. When all other justifications fail, you can never go wrong with your last list on your DOGE 5 things you did this week should always be, I have no idea what the you're talking about. Hold on, I think I'm getting a call. And Trump has deployed this strategy better than anyone. For instance, when asked if we're actually deporting like gay hairdressers with Real Madrid tattoos instead of Venezuelan gang members, the president stood on that principle.
I don't know. You have to speak to the lawyers about it.
Or how about the Justice Department's bizarre decision to pause its case against Eric Adams if he promised to cooperate on immigration?
I know nothing about it.
Well, okay, but those are just his central policies. Surely the buck literally stops with Trump with the launch of Trump's own crypto coin.
I don't know much about it other than I launched it.
I don't know much about it other than I launched it. The President of the United States, I don't know much about it except I launched it. Crypto coin, nuclear missiles, I don't know much about it, I just launched them. Hey, Mr. President, could you take this? Yeah, what should I do with it? Just launch it. You start to wonder, does the buck stop anywhere with this dude?
I don't know when it was signed because I didn't sign it. Other people handled it. I don't know. You'll have to ask them. I don't know what it is, no. I don't know what it is. I heard about it at the same time. Maybe you heard about it. I don't know anything about it. I don't know the situation. I know nothing about WikiLeaks. It's not my thing. I don't know her. I never met her. I have no idea who she is. No, I don't take responsibility at all. I had nothing to do with that.
January 6th? January 6th is like your whole brand. It'd be like the Hawk Tuah girl going, actually, I only do hand stuff. Now you're grossed out? So many things that Trump seemingly has no involvement in. Is it possible he's been severed? Is that what all the choreography and merriment is about? Now, maybe you're saying, hey, the man's pushing 80. Maybe it's not a matter of trying to shirk responsibility. Maybe he legitimately cannot remember any of this shit.
I have a good memory and all that stuff, like a great memory. I have a great memory. One of the great memories of all time.
Oh. Well, then the only other thought here is that the I don't know, I don't remember is a cynical strategy to avoid the buck stopping anywhere near you and evading accountability at all costs. If only there was one clip that answered that question.
Did I say I have a great memory, or we're the best in the world?
One of the best in the world is what the reporter quoted you to say.
I mean, I don't remember that.